Hello, this is Kyle. Let's write some code. Today we're going to talk about Node streams or IOJS streams. Now, they may seem really super weird because as you're looking through the documentation, maybe all of these things make sense to you. And then you come across this funny little thing called stream and you're like, what is this for? There's nothing weird about it really. It's basically just something that if you implement, your code will automatically work with a whole bunch of other people's codes that work streams. It's really just an interface, it's an API. There's nothing fancy to it. There's really nothing special besides that it will connect up to a bunch of cool stuff. So if you ever have, another Node developer frothing at the mouth screaming streams at you, then it's basically they just really want you to write your code implementing this interface so your code will work with their code. Now there are two primary types of streams, readable and writable. Readable means it can be read, stuff comes out of it, output, readable output. Writable means that you can write to it. It takes input, you can write to it. So I already have IOJS installed here or Node.js installed, and I'll put a link in the description to getting the same setup going here. And I'm just going to be using the terminal today and just writing some straight code and running it here by just typing node and the name of the file, and it will run it through Node. So we're going to create a file here, and this file is going to be just a list of bears. We'll name it bears.txt, and let's just add some. Let's say a grizzly bear, a brown bear, a polar bear, and then some other bears that may not be bears. So let's just go ahead and create our list of bears. And so then in our Node script here, we want to read this file. And so Node has the FS module or the file system module, and that's good for reading files. And in it, we can create a read stream by saying fs.create read stream. And we give it the file, and so it will be bears.txt. And so this will return a readable stream called bears here that will read this bears.txt file. So an easy way to just tap into the stream and make sure it's actually working is to add a event listener to it called data. And so anytime this stream gets data, it will emit this data event with the first argument being data here. And so we can just log this straight to the console, and we'll call toString onto it. Make sure it's a string in the character encoding we want. And so we'll just run node index again here, and you'll see that we get our file printed to the console. Now another cool thing is the console output, the standard output is a stream itself. So instead of having to do this console log, we can just take bears and call pipe on it and pipe it directly to process standard out. And now when we run the same thing, we get the same output because it's just piping it directly out to our console. Now that's great, but we don't want it in the console. I want to actually read this list of bears, and I want to only have the actual bears. So I'm going to create actual bears here, and we're going to create a writable stream. And so just like the readable stream, we use create read stream here, but we're going to say create write stream. And so we'll give it a file that it will write out to, and we'll call actual bears.txt. So the read stream is we can read it. Stuff's going to come out of it. And the write stream, we can write to it. So stuff's going to go into here. And anything that goes into here is going to write to this actual file on the file system. And so an easy way to just have this readable stream pipe directly out to here is just to pipe it by saying the readable stream here, bears, we're going to pipe to actual bears here. And so now when we run the code, you'll see we get another file here called actual bears that is the exact contents of our original bears.txt file. As you can see, streams make it really easy to move data around from one or another. But we want to now create our own stream. And what we want to do is we want to filter out any bears that are not actual bears and write it out to this file. You could say we want to transform it. And so there's another type of stream called a transform stream. And a transform stream is simply just a stream that both reads and writes. You can put stuff into it by writing to it, and then it outputs stuff by outputting it. So we're going to create a transform stream. And so by doing that, we are going to spell transform correctly. And we're going to say require stream, and this will give us access to the different types of streams. You can do a readable stream, a writable stream here. You basically just get a class that you can inherit here, and so we're going to inherit from the transform stream. So we also are going to require util inherits, and using that we can create our own stream. So let's just go ahead and create a function here, and we'll say actual bears. And then in here, we are going to call our transform stream. This is typical prototypal inheritance stuff. We're just going to inherit actual bears, and it's going to inherit this transform stream. So this is basically just going to turn our our actual bears class here into a transform stream, and then call the transform constructor. I have an earlier video on JavaScript prototype fun if you wanted to check it out. I'll put a link in the description here. So now we have the class built, we need to add a method to it. And so we're going to add this on the prototype. And this isn't a method that you call. Rather, it's called by the stream when data is written to it. And so it's called _transform. And it takes 3 arguments here. Chunk is the data that's being written to this stream, and then encoding is the type of data that it is. And then done is when we're ready for more data to be passed into it. So when bears here is written to our transform stream, we will get that as data. And so what we're going to do here is let's just split our chunk by new lines here, so we get each on each new line, and then we are going to filter out anything that's not a bear. So we'll say if bear does not equal koala, because those aren't bears, we'll say return true. So this will basically say anything that's not a any bear that's not a koala, then we get this chunk here, and we'll join these back up. Join the new lines back up here. Okay, so now that we've had our data modified in the way, or transformed in the way we want, we call this .push. And so this basically says data is going to be written out of the stream. So data comes in, readable stream, it's being written to this transform stream. And then once we've transformed the data gets pushed out through this push. So we're going to push this chunk back out. And just to say that we are all done doing any kind of operations with it, we're going to call this callback and let the transform stream know that we can take more data and to continue on. So now there's one thing I did forget, and is to check the encoding. Now by default, streams will use a buffer. We just want it to be a string, so we're just going to call toString on our chunk here. But streams can also stream in objects and then really anything, so it's important to take care of the encoding. But for this example, we're just going to call toString and make everything a string. So now we're ready to use this transform stream. So let's just copy this and rename this to something a little bit less confusing. So since this is our read stream, let's call it read, and this is our write stream, let's call it write. So now what we want to do is we want to read the file, and once that's read, we want to pipe it to our actual bears transform. And then once that has transformed the file, we are going to pipe it out to write. So this is basically just saying read this file, pipe it, and transform it using this transform stream, and then write it out to this actual bears file. And so now if we run it, we should get a list of bears with only valid actual bears. So what's great about this is that now that you've created your transform stream, anybody that uses streams can use this, and it should just automatically connect up for the most part. So there's lots of things that are streams. You know, if you're running, if you have an HTTP server that you're running through Node, you can have input that's coming in pipe directly to it, and output pipe directly out. You can have sockets that are having, you know, maybe there's a chat app or something that's sending messages through the sockets, and it's, you know, coming through there. You can be reading from a database, you know, whatever. Just nearly everything in Node uses streams, and lots of files on npm and out there use streams. So it's just a really great interface to implement if you are reading or writing data. So I hope this has helped you learn about streams, and if it has, then please share the video. I would really appreciate that. And if you want to see more videos, then please subscribe. Thanks again.